My goodness, is it moany shouty time again already? When we last spoke, we covered rubbish video game ending offenses, including locking the finale off behind a DLC paywall, just restarting the entire game, boiling down a multitude of different decisions to an irrelevant three-way choice, and being generally quite shit. It's time for some more! I'm Ben from What Culture, and here are 10 more video game endings that were profoundly insulting. Number 10. Ghosts and Goblins. Sir Arthur's had a rough day. Having contended with zombies, ogres, demons, cyclops, dragons, and more, what he was faced with at the end of the game would cause any other person to crumble. Originally released on arcade machines, the title is extremely fondly remembered and highly revered, having been remastered and re-released into oblivion. However, upon reaching the final boss, if the player doesn't have the cross weapon, they're chucked all the way back to the beginning of level 5 and must play all the way through to the end again. If they do have the cross weapon and beat the final boss, surprise! It was apparently a trap devised by Satan, you fucking idiot. Back to the start of the game on a higher difficulty for you. It's worth beating again though, if not for the incredible ending text. Congratulations! This story is happy end. Excellent. Number 9. Life is Strange. Teeny Bop Angst Fest Life is Strange took the episodic title genre by storm when it ordered a like Ponzi Coffee and like Kickflipped into 2015. In a largely uncontested area where Telltale held sway, developer Don't Nod Interactive managed to tell an emotional and gripping story of an outcast photography student who's reunited with a childhood friend swept up in a mental murder mystery and who can rewind and generally fiddle with time. Choices were also a big part of the experience, so when it came down to a binary one or the other decision at the end, completely ignoring all you'd done up until that point, people were quite irritated. Number 8. The Order 1886. This game got too much hate, so there. I mean, admittedly, there were some serious AI issues, and well, the shooting was a bit wonky, and the stealth was obviously bad. The game was short, and the devs probably kicked dogs, but it was beautiful and full of intrigue, blending myth and fact together fantastically. Tales of vampires, an Arthurian order of vampire hunters, Jack the Ripper. It was great. I mean, it was okay. The central plot revealed the suspect United India Company trying to ship slumbering vampires across the world, but all protagonist Sir Galahad does by the end of the game is fight an identical boss fight from earlier on, confront the traitor within the Order, and then walk away, shunned, an outcast. He's last seen staring moodily across the London skyline, with no payoff and definitely no sequel. Number 7. BioShock Infinite. Like many people, this ending kind of blew my mind a little, but I can kind of understand where people are coming from when they say it's a little pretentious and wanky. However, I don't fully understand where they're coming from. Oh, Jules!
The thing is with BioShock Infinite's story is that it basically caught so many people off guard and swept so many things past them at the very end that it fooled them into thinking it was a much deeper ending than it was. What you're actually experiencing is basically the game going back on itself with everything that it's ever taught you and saying, nah, we actually just wanted this ending. Now, the problem is that you play as Booker for what, 30 hours, 40 hours getting through the main game. You go through the trials of tribulations of getting Elizabeth back and defeating Songbird and even killing Comstock. Now, you've experienced all of that with him, and any extra information that's given to you is revealed once a tear has been opened and you experience it as a player and you understand his backstory. Now, in the very end of the game, he just suddenly goes, oh wait, no, there's loads of information that I completely just suddenly remember. You end up just going, well, how was I meant to see that? I mean, in the original BioShock, you had the would you kindly twist, but that was set up. Whereas in this one, it's just suddenly like, nah, here's a load of extra information that you definitely wouldn't know about because we're just going to throw it in at the end. And I really hate the way they use quantum mechanics and basically say quantum mechanics in this game is magic. Elizabeth is trying to get through a locked door and she goes, oh, if only I had the key or anything like that. And then she looks into her hand and suddenly she has the key. She follows it up with the line something like, it's always been there, I just needed to look for it. That's not how quantum mechanics work. And like this whole thing of like having infinite universes, but it all tying down to one choice, whether he got baptized or not, is just ridiculous. And they explain it away by saying, oh, there's always going to be constants. That's not how it works. You don't have infinite possibilities and then have one thing that happens all the time. Those are completely different points. As a result, if you're watching the end of the game and watching Booker drown, you're thinking to yourself, hang on, he was a good Booker. He actually said, no, I don't want to be baptized. It's not a bad game. game, but the ending definitely is stupid for how clever the game thinks it is.
Number 6. Dragon's Dogma. In Dragon's Dogma, the hero has their heart ripped out by a dragon and they're revived as the Chosen One or an Arisen. Plus, while on their quest, they can be accompanied by 3 or so pawns or companion characters. It was a great JRPG enjoyed by many, but the finale is utterly bonkers, quite stupid, and comes completely out of nowhere. The following synopsis of the ending comes from Giant Bomb forum user False Relic. Here we go. Let me get this straight and correct me if I'm wrong. You were being tested to take the place of another Arisen as god, and if you fail, you get turned into a dragon looking for an Arisen who has the potential to become a god. Then, once you become a god, you have to kill yourself. Once you kill yourself, your main pawn takes over your body and begins a relationship with the person you fell in love with. What? Number 5. Fable 2. From the sincerely excellent and not at all slightly massively definitely lying mind of Peter Molyneux came the 2008 sequel to Fable, the numerically logical Fable 2. It wove a fantastical tale of fantasy adventure, the child born into poverty rising up to become a great hero, uniting a task force of individuals to take down the evil Lucian and his reign of terror. This horrid man killed your sister. He killed your dog. If you had a family in the game, he killed them too. Hell, he tried and succeeded once at killing you on several occasions. So when the final showdown occurs, what happens? He monologues at you, and you shoot him. That's it. No boss fight, no satisfying beatdown, you just shoot him dead. Also, if you take too long, someone else shoots him instead, robbing you of any emotional payoff. Naff. Number 4. Far Cry 4. Oh look, it's a franchise Ubisoft has sort of run into the ground with overexposure. Far Cry 4 was an enjoyable, if familiar romp through the fictional Himalayan nation of Kyrat that saw AJ returning to his ancestral land to lay his mother's ashes to rest. You're immediately intercepted and greeted by tyrannical ruler Pagan Min, who takes an interest in you when he learns who you are. Taking the opportunity to escape during dinner at the start, you then spend the game fighting alongside rebel group The Golden Path to put an end to Pagan's evil ways. But, much like Fable 2, there's no real satisfaction that comes from the ending. When you confront Pagan, all he wants to do is talk. You can shoot him immediately if you want, or you can listen to what he has to say and shoot down his helicopter as he flies away, or you can just let him go in the helicopter. I mean, he does tell you vital information about your mother and allow you to lay her ashes at a shrine dedicated to her, but the lack of payoff after 30 hours of fighting against his forces was quite the letdown. Also, if you don't take the opportunity to escape during dinner at the start, he tells you the info he does at the end of the game, and you go straight home. It's a fun Easter egg, but highlights the larger issue, really. Number 3. Assassin's Creed 3. While it's widely agreed upon that Black Flag was the last real home run for the Assassin's Creed franchise, it certainly dipped with Assassin's Creed 3. I mean, there wasn't too much wrong with it, just an uninteresting plot, a lack of tool architecture to climb, and a protagonist who could have been swapped out for a block of balsa wood halfway through and nobody would have known. I suppose you could call him a shit protagonist with all the charisma of wet cardboard for wankers. Hashtag shit protagonist with all the charisma of wet cardboard for wankers. The 18th century portion ends with Connor yelling about Charles Lee and stabbing everything that moves before burying an amulet. The ever so slightly rubbish modern day section ended with Desmond finding that amulet, sacrificing himself to avoid a civilization-ending disaster, and freeing an ancient being called Juno, who wants to take over the world. Oh, that's great. Given that you're presented with an alternative where everyone but Desmond would die, making you revered as a god in the New World and avoiding releasing Juno, it was a real shame that you had no choice in the matter, and that Desmond, the man who'd been learning how to assassin for years, never got to do any modern-day assassinating. He was simply killed off. Shame. Number 2. Final Fantasy 13-2. 13-2. Somehow simultaneously the sequel to a game that was largely disliked, the sequel nobody wanted, and the prequel to a further sequel that nobody wanted. Continuing the somewhat uninteresting story of Lightning and her grumpy gang of exposition-shouting mad-haired puppets, 13-2 goes full mental convoluted time-splintered confounding with Sarah and newcomer Noel trying to find Lightning, Snow, and save the future from destruction. Or something. The real problem here is that none of the major issues raised are actually resolved, with it ending on those 3 dreaded words, to be continued. Hooray! Now you can buy the next one to maybe get some closure. That is, if you actually have much of a clue what's going on, which you probably don't. Number 1. Dead Space 3. Dead Space 3 was a bit of a shock to most series fans. 1 was a tight, scary thrill ride through shit-your-pants city, and 2 was largely a continuation of that. 3, however, was a mega-budget thrill ride with co-op, and I don't care who you are, I don't care where you're from. Co-op ruins horror. Got it? Good. So at the end of the game, Isaac Clarke and Soldier Accomplice crash two celestial bodies into one another, presumably saving the universe, and almost definitely dying in the process. Except, surprise! There's a post-credit stinger that has Isaac calling out via an audio log. And how would they address his alive/deadedness? DLC! DLC that ends with an ambiguous cut to black, no less. Shit. And that's our list. Make sure you subscribe to the What Culture Gaming YouTube channel for more lists like this, and don't forget to visit whatculture.com for daily news and articles. I'm Ben from What Culture. You can follow me here on Twitter, and thanks for watching.